On this episode of ResiWeek, ELAN has Dante, NETGEAR adds Armor, and Sonos' new ARC. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 229. You fancy.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Chief, the global leader in commercial AV mounting solutions, and by Crestron.
Hey, welcome to this episode of ResiWeek, your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I am pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Samantha Venture. She is the VP of Education and Training at CEDIA. How are you, ma'am?
Fine, thank you. Nice to see you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. And the recipient or the selectee, I don't even know what the proper verbiage for that is, but you were number 12, I believe?
Yes.
On the AV Power Index that referenced the top 20 most influential people in the entire AV space. And not only were you number 12, you were the only residential person on that list. So congratulations. And
thank you so much. It's a big honor. I appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time out of your very important day to spend some time with us.
Why are you laughing?
I'm not. It just mainly because you're spending time with us. And
I appreciate you having me. I love to be on this.
We love having you. Next, we have Mark Feinberg. He is the president of Home Theater Advisors from New York. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Matt. I wanted to wish Samantha congratulations. And Matt, I'm a little disappointed you didn't make the list. You didn't make the cut.
I'm not at all influential. We know that.
Fair point.
Like, come on. But thank you for, telling everyone how non-influential I am. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
Thank you. New York friends are the best friends. All right. And on that note, talking about some influential people, I want to congratulate my friend Rich Ventura. He was appointed the vice president of B2B for Sony Imaging Products and Solutions in their professional division. If you want to read about this, it's in Residential Systems. But Sony announced this a couple of days ago. And if you don't know Rich, he is a fantastic individual. He spent 19 years over at NEC. You probably know him on Twitter as NEC Rich, which is probably going to change now. But congratulations to him. That is a very big move for both of them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into our first story of the day. This comes to us from a Residential Tech Today. ELAN is launching an IP-enabled audio distribution system with Dante technology. Now, on the off chance you don't know what Dante is, it is a network protocol for audio that, again, works over the network. Very, very common, very, very big, and incredibly effective and dynamic, and it's used all the time in the commercial and professional audio environments, but not so much in the home. We've talked about it, I think, once, maybe twice on this show, as it started to be announced as something that may come to residential audio. Samantha, I want to start with you on this one. This is a technology, and I'm thrilled that ELAN is doing this, because we've seen just really flirting from the residential space of people, including Dante, but no endpoints, nowhere necessarily for it to go. This is a huge deal for ELAN, but this is a huge deal for the industry. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, we have a lot of technologies that are evolutionary. You had, 1080p, you now have 4K, you now have 8K. Learning that and understanding that and becoming an expert in that, you've got a foundation to build on. You might think that this has the same kind of foundation, but it is vastly different. And, I've trained people who know how to run a mixer console in the professional world on an analog board. They don't understand the transition to digital, and they really get lost when you start talking Dante to them. How do you have a brand new technology and get integrators up to speed on it so that it's not just something that they dismiss instantly because they don't understand it?
I love this question, and this is something the education team talks about these topics all the time because our big mission, as you know, Matt, being on the CD board of directors for the time you were and being such a champion of education, we really focus on the holistic. There you go, plug for you. You're so influential, and you were really, for me, especially when I first came on board, you really were, and a huge support and champion for what we were doing. But the holistic piece of this is something that is so important to understand. As we start to see so much technology intersect in other areas, I mean, we could talk about this from the CS world as well. We can go into all different avenues where different things have started to kind of all come together. The more you know, by not limiting yourself to saying, well, one thing is only applicable over here, the better off you will be. You never know when other questions are going to come up or different things that are going to happen within your own particular professional life. It's better for you to have an understanding of the background and also the knowledge that might be maybe not applicable right then, but coming down the avenue or coming down the pike, it will be. This is like somebody living in the Midwest saying, well, do I really need to know about codes that are happening or standards that are happening on the coastal areas? Absolutely you do, because it's only a matter of time before other things come down the pike. So to be well-rounded and really fully understand and engage with technology as it's becoming to even more advanced, recognize that coming down the pike, different things will happen where if you have a baseline knowledge of it, it just makes you stronger all the way across the board and more competitive when it does hit up to you eventually. I feel like a lot of these things it's just a matter of time before they begin to intersect even more. And so to have that knowledge ahead of time and understand where you could see that being applicable to you is super, super important. We design our education from that standpoint that, yes, we are of course focused on our particular area, but also recognizing that someone might become a career changer, and that's fine. If that happens, we want them to at least have a baseline understanding and a knowledge of some of those other things, as opposed to saying, it never really hit me, so it never really impacted me, I never really learned about it. That's very siloed knowledge and education, and we don't promote that at all. We want you to have at least a baseline understanding, and who knows, maybe that'll springboard you into wanting to know other things too, that would make you more well-rounded within your own industry and with what you do.
Very good. I like that. Mark, when you see this, when you see what ELAN is doing here, again, they've got an audio matrix, they've got extenders, they've got preamps, they've got local source, they've got network import cards. They've really gone all in on this. And what I love about this is, in a small home, Dante gives you a lot of flexibility, even though you wouldn't think that you necessarily need it. In a large home or a large environment, Dante is arguably just a massive game changer. It lets you take audio from anywhere and put it anywhere. How do you go about figuring out and learning how to change your design philosophy to accept, stuff that normally we didn't really do this way?
Right. Well, I mean, I think anything that's going to add flexibility, and especially kind of a get out of jail free card sometimes when you're talking about retrofits or a client who comes back down the pipe later and says, hey, I really want to put audio in this room, or I really wanted to add this into the system. And you're like, oh crap, we're out of ports, or out of, we don't have wiring to that room, or, we only have an Ethernet port to that room. Like, what do you do? So running speaker wire to every room gets expensive when you have a centralized audio system. If you can stick a networked amp somewhere, that definitely adds a lot of value. Now, you've been able to do it to some extent. Control 4, the matrix sits on the network. You can put it. They had a speaker point. They have the Triad 1 amp, which is on a network and can sit anywhere and give you a networked amplifier anywhere. I know that's not what Dante is, but we've been down this road a little bit. If you've gone from a traditional HD-based T matrix to IP video, it's a similar. Understanding, it's a similar transition. It's a similar conceptually. It's not that different of a move. So those doing the large homes, those doing the resi-commercial work, are probably doing IP video. And you say, oh, now we've got. You say, call it IP audio, and it should click with them pretty quickly on what this is and what this can mean for their business and for their clients.
Very good. I like that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to our next story of the day. This comes to us from Hidden Wires over in the UK. NETGEAR is offering new home network protection with Wi-Fi 6 in their new Orbi Wi-Fi 6 mesh systems. Essentially, that's their mesh WAPs. They're now adding, their advanced cyber protection called NETGEAR Armor, which is powered by Bitdefender, and it is available, as I said, on their mesh access points as well as their Wi-Fi 6 routers. What it is it's essentially a advanced firewall and virus protection, etc. that's built into their Nighthawk routers as well as the new mesh system. Mark, when you see this is kind of a bit of a bigger deal than one might initially think at first read. Traditionally, you have some form of network security in a router, but it is somewhat limited. It's somewhat basic. And, if you want to get into, something as aggressive as ransomware or zero-day exploits, rootkits, all that fun stuff, you need a third-party piece. You need endpoint protection. You need more than what you really ever see in a home network. The fact that NETGEAR has added this, does this take the onus off an integrator to maybe either be comfortable not being as up to speed from a cybersecurity standpoint? Does it give them that flexibility?
I go back. I'll be honest. I'm a little behind in catching up to my ResiWeeks because I typically listen to it on the drive to job sites. And being in New York, there haven't been a whole lot of those. So I just listened to an early May edition, coincidentally, like last week, and you were talking about cybersecurity and do dealers know what it is, and is anyone getting involved? And then I saw this article this week, and I said, I'm connecting the dots a little bit here. I think you have a lot of dealers and a lot of integrators who don't have the networking backbone. And when you say cybersecurity, they say, well, yeah, I changed the default passwords in the router, so yeah, it's secure.
Seems legit.
They don't know what it means, and they don't know what kind of firewalls they can put in and hardware they can use and how they monitor it and everything. I think if they can say we're putting this system in and it provides this level of security for you, and this is what it prevents, and and also what it's going to limit for you, because very often you will find it will limit what the homeowner can do, because it's got to be, the security kind of goes both ways. Some people might want it turned off because they want to use some of the other things out there in the internet. They want to, the big bad internet. But I think for the people who want to offer it and have been a little afraid of it, something like this works. I don't know how this compares to what like Eero Secure offers. I think Eero offers something in their product. I was just kind of doing a little looking around. Arachnus offers some security filtering in their routers. This goes a step beyond that and adds even more. It adds a third-party protocol behind it. I think people who were afraid of it and didn't even know how to offer it can now have a product line that offers it. I'd like to see it coming into the more professional grade product, in that, and making it easier for the guys who are doing, the dealers who are doing Arachnus and Luxel and PackEdge, in that AV tier of networking product, something for them to offer as either a plug-in or an add-on to their routers, because I think a lot of people are doing that grade of hardware but aren't comfortable adding on that extra layer of cybersecurity. So I would love to see something. I'd love to see this bubble up into the product our industry is using day in, day out.
I can answer your question too, Matt. I want to say something about this because I have looked through this quite a bit, and I have to say that your first question related to should we just rely on the product to kind of speak for itself and then kind of hope for the best? No, if I'm phrasing it correctly, I'm going to be perfectly honest. Absolutely not. Should we ever do that? And this would be like saying to a drug rep, go out and, basically just hand over the new medicines to the doctor and hope that everybody figures it out. The expectation is you're going to know how that they work, and you're going to be able to answer some of those really important questions. If you go back and you look at all that I've talked about at any time over the past year, security has always been something, even before COVID-19, that I hit on all the time. This is such an ever-changing and such an important piece to so many people, whether you're on the residential or commercial side. And now more than ever with COVID-19, security is so paramount to understanding what those answers are going to be and what we can offer to the client with respect to their own security and their privacy. And really now asking people to work from home, and now looking at people who may want to work still in groups and going out to coffee shops and different things. You need to understand what it means to have potentially a very fractured and and not trustworthy line of security versus one that could be giving you alerts to things. And when you read up on this particular one, there's a whole other level of added security to this, where they're actually sending you prompts and things about checking into your own ways to improve your own protection, et cetera, and connecting all the devices into one thing. And I just feel like, for whatever, I think so many times we rely on certain things and then we catch up to them to understand what they can actually do. And I would absolutely suggest we do it the opposite, which is we do our homework ahead of time, understand the implications and the benefits of it, and wait for those questions to come for us and know how to answer them, as opposed to then, not knowing the answers and then finding out on the fly later on. And so this is one of those ones that really, really excites me, because I feel like there is so much opportunity for potential breach of privacy and security coming down the pike. Our own personal information, our doctor's appointments that are now virtual, all of it. I want to know that I'm protected and that I'm secure and that I have privacy and security. And I really liked what I was reading and seeing for this particular one.
So Samantha, let me ask you this then. If someone, does go down this route and they're knowledgeable, they understand the basics, the general concepts, even some advanced stuff. They're not necessarily true network engineers, but let's be honest, that's still a really rare, that's a big rarity in any AV environment, let alone residential. But let's say you've got some really good knowledge. This product and this solution, it comes with a yearly subscription side. That's something that we've heard for years, that AV integrators should be selling subscriptions. It's really hard to go out and especially sell a cybersecurity subscription. Is this something where, again, you kind of get the best of both worlds? You know how to configure it, you know how to set it up. Bitdefender is a rock solid product. If you go out there to set it up for your client and then let them get a subscription with a third party and a manufacturer for that matter, is that going to be an easier sell for you as an integrator to help keep your clients protected?
I think so. I mean, there are so many things that we buy with a subscription model now. I mean, we're paying for Netflix and Hulu and all these other things, and we should start to understand what this is going to look like. I mean, they're offering, I think it was a 30-day trial for this, and then it's like $69.99 per year for your home to be connected. This is, to me, this is not a huge amount to where I would feel protected and know that if there was going to be a breach or suggested something that I was on a website on my phone and they were worried that someone was hacking into something in another location or something, if I knew that this was coming to me right then real time, that to me is a huge benefit and not at a huge price point. I feel like when you have that added security and you can kind of also then, for answering some of those questions that you may not know all the answers to, then you're almost like partnering with a group that would have the answers. And so you become a little bit of that middle person to offer things that you're putting in, you feel trust and you're relying upon, but then you're kind of passing the baton and saying, if this is something you really want to go down this avenue, this is what it costs, and this is why I'm potentially suggesting it, and then these are the answers and things that you could expect and what you should be expecting from this particular group that you're partnering with as well. So you do become a little bit of a middle person, but I think in a case like this, sometimes there's a whole bigger picture attached to this, and I would absolutely suggest or think that it would be good to suggest some of these items or things to our clients and people that are asking these of us, instead of just saying, well, I don't know if I feel really comfortable with that, so this is the most that I can offer you. I don't know if that's the best way to go.
Well, I know we got to move on, but I want to jump on that for a second though. I would rather see, as somebody who follows behind a lot of other integrators occasionally, stop smiling, Mark. I would much rather,
do too. That's why.
Yeah, I know. I would much rather see, if you are not comfortable or if you don't understand what you're doing, I'd much rather see you go out there and tell your client, in this case, hey, this NETGEAR, Nighthawk that we're supplying you has some built-in filters. We've set it up the best we can. Go nuts. Have fun. Rather than try to, oh yes, we've got you fully secure. And then we come in or somebody else comes in and can find all those problems. I think at the end of the day, it's something where if you're going to play with cybersecurity, network security, please, for the love of God, know what you're doing.
Know your
Otherwise, just
limitations.
don't. Yes, know your
Absolutely
limitations.
Know your limitations. 100% agree with you. And I think that there's some real value in that when you understand what you need to say. I'm going to parking lot this and find out more info for you, or I'm going to kind of pass the baton. I'm going to make really educated suggestions and, kind of help find your way with certain things. But at the end of the day, if this is not my area of expertise, it really isn't. But as your trusted partner in what we're doing together, this is what I would feel most comfortable with. And I agree with you. That's how I would handle it as well.
Yeah, I love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to kind of our last story of the day, most likely. As much fun as the cybersecurity conversation was, because we all know I can talk about that all day. If you go to AVNation.tv when this posts, you will see a review on the brand new Sonos ARC from myself. You'll even, if you catch the unboxing video, we'll see a photo bomb or a video bomb, I guess, of my baby, who was somewhat helpful during the unboxing and only ate a little bit of the cardboard. Sorry about that, guys.
It's fiber.
Yeah, it's fiber. It's all, and that's part of the unboxing video. It's all, you break it down. It's great. But long and short, I've had a Sonos ARC for a little over a month now. Have had a lot of fun with it. It has been a really enjoyable, not only soundbar, but a great upgrade from the Playbar. So you can check that out. The other part of this conversation is on Wednesday of last week, Sonos announced that they're cutting 12% of their global employees, essentially due to the coronavirus pandemic. And there's an article that we're pulling some of this information from CNBC. Mark, I want to start with you on this one as kind of the other integrator of the group. And somebody who I know sells Sonos, which is part of the reason that I wanted you on today. I don't know if you've had a chance to play with the Sonos, but you and I were talking about the ARC, I think a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And, I was giving you some of my feedback and some of the experiences that I had with it. This is a product that they've needed for a while. As good as the Playbar has been, and as long as the Playbar has really been at the top of that list as far as quality soundbars that are available, it still lacked a lot of features that a lot of people were looking for. You've seen the reviews. You might have played with one as well. What's kind of your take on this on this new product? Is this what they needed to bring to the table to continue to be competitive and arguably kind of number one in that category?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been doing very well in the soundbar category for quite a while, and the Playbar was groundbreaking in that it was I think other than Bluetooth, it was the first speaker with integrated streaming music, and it's been great. Now it's long in the tooth and was a little boxy and ugly, which led to a lot of Leon tone case sales because that was just, the thing was pretty nasty looking, but. With
how you feel, Mark.
Listen, when it came out, it was great. What is that thing? 9 years old? It's 9 years old, something like that. I mean, it's not. It's been a while. And to Sonos's credit, that's been a big benefit. They don't refresh their line every year and make you feel like you've got old technology 2 years after it came out. It's everything they have in their line lasts for a while. I know they went through some heat recently with the S1, S2, and with 10-year-old product no longer being supported. That's technology. I hate to say it. I mean, it's just the way it is. But I think the Beam coming out was a big one. I know when that first came out, I had a lot of questions from clients where we were installing Playbars, asking about, well, should I go with the Beam? Is that going to replace the Playbar? And after talking to Sonos and their engineers, we realized that not really. The Beam is really meant for a smaller room. The Playbar still has a bigger sound and is going to fill a room better. But yeah, a lot of features are missing. People wanted the voice control on our simpler installs where there was no control system, and this is where the name of the soundbar drives me nuts. Having ARC, having audio return channel having ARC on the ARC is kind of nice. Sorry, Matt, but that name kills me. When a big feature of your product is ARC and you name the product,
it's kind of weird. Your product?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And the feature isn't yours. But having ARC on it, having voice control on it, looking a lot better, having Dolby Surround, having the Dolby Atmos capabilities, it's where it needs to be. Dolby Atmos, I think I demoed it at CEDIA 4 years ago. There was some great theaters with it, and it's amazing. And a lot of soundbars have been doing it for a while, and Sonos is missing it. I remember I've been seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh, can I just put in another Sonos amp with 2 in-ceiling speakers and do Dolby Atmos with that?" No, you can't. But now there's a solution within the Sonos ecosystem, and honestly, a Sonos surround sound system isn't that bad. I mean, it's, if you consider a traditional surround sound system with some architectural speakers a 10, which it's not, towers is a 10, but what most people want to see. A Sonos surround system is a 7. It's 7 or an 8. It's not that far off from what you're going to get with a traditional AVR and speakers. And now bringing Atmos to it is that feature set. Is that key feature everyone's looking for. So you combine the aesthetics, the voice, the Atmos, and audio return channel, which for those non-control system setups where you can have an easy control with the cable box or Apple TV or Roku native remote, makes a winner. I mean, this is other than that 4-inch gap we were talking about earlier, this is going to be a big winner.
Yeah, that 4-inch gap is entertaining. I want to see what people are doing with that. I will add, just to not to defend it, but to add some context as well. There are a bunch of products in the CE category that are named ARC. I went searching.
Are there?
There
Okay.
are. There's a brand new set of headphones that just came out that are called ARC.
But they aren't using ARC, are they?
No, they're not. No, they're not. But my kind of kickback would be, how many of your clients actually know what ARC is, or know that it's on their TV? They
yeah.
I get it. It's a little confusing, but notwithstanding,
right.
Samantha, let's kind of change gears for a quick second. They had this big product announcement. It was a fairly big deal. And then within a week or week and a half, they announced some fairly significant layoffs. 12% of 12% of their global their global workforce. They're closing their New York retail store as well as 6 satellite offices. The CEO, Patrick Spence, is taking a significant, I think it's like a 20% pay cut from July 1st to December 31st. The executive officers are all taking pay cuts, I believe in the 20% range as well. Their board members aren't going to take an annual cash retainer for that period as well. That is not something that we see that often. It's usually companies lay off workers and CEOs don't necessarily see a massive change. That's a whole other conversation for another day. The thing that I'm intrigued with is we keep talking about it, and I think you and I talked about how the effects of the last couple of months are going to affect our industry and our channel. And for the most part, we've focused on either small manufacturers and integrators. We really haven't talked about massive companies like Sonos, who's a publicly traded company. Is this a factor of the economics of it? Is this a factor of them being public? Is it a combination of all of the above?
What do you mean, that this hit such a large organization, or? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think this is not going to be the only one. Absolutely. This is horrible timing, I would say, in my opinion, to be talking about one thing that I think is a big win for Sonos versus something that is a real sad part that's happening. I mean, to close the New York City office is just crazy to me. When I read that, I was very surprised and saddened. So I don't think this is going to be an isolated group at all, organization. I think we will see others. The impacts of the economic trickle effects from what has happened, we'd be very naive to think this is going to be the only larger organization that we're going to see this happen to. It's very sad for me to see that, obviously, and for both of you, I'm sure. But, I think that it's just probably just the natural culmination of everything that's been happening for 3 months and starting to hit, and where I think some people thought this was going to be a little bit more temporary. I think looking down and staying as open to the reality of the situation is that it is still very unknown where the overall effects of this are going to be, how long things are going to remain either closed and or organizations are going to have to work virtually, and or just the hit in terms of the economics. We still have so many unknowns that I think a lot of places are going to be, even if they're not hurting economically, they're going to be very prudent with how they're spending their money and what they're spending it on. And unfortunately, maybe recognizing that there may be a better way internally to streamline processes. And in doing so, they may have to cut back. But I was also quite taken aback, but also it was good to read that at the executive level, they understood what that meant for them as well. And so it wasn't just the 12% across the board at what you would call maybe the lower level. So a lot of mixed emotions when I was reading through all of it, and of course still become, so happy about what they were putting out there too. And then in the next breath reading, in the next turn of the page, reading something else that had happened to them in general. But I don't think they're going to be an isolated. I think that we're going to see others potentially as well. And it may just be a prudent answer to what we don't know from the unexpected over the next year and even into 21 probably.
Yeah, very, very true. If you want to check out more information on that, again, as Samantha mentioned, we're saddened to see this. We don't want to see anybody lose a job, but there are lots of people that are going through that right now. And again, one of the things that I should mention is that they're doing a fair amount, or they're reporting that they're doing a fair amount. But I'm assuming them, or going to take them at their word that they will be doing that as far as trying to support that team through that transition and help them with career transition coaching and a bunch of other things, which is really nice to see. So we wish them, of course, all the best. As far as the ARC, it is a very, very cool product. I really have enjoyed hands-on with it. It's something that I'm looking forward to, putting into a bunch of clients and selling a bunch of them, because it's pretty nice. It's a nice product.
Can I ask you, Matt? I know on your unboxing you put it below your TV, and it's pretty close to the TV.
It is pretty close to the TV.
How's the Atmos performance?
I didn't really notice a major change to the Atmos performance there or in my office downstairs, where it's still in front of the TV. If you could see it, it
protrudes out the front, right?
But it's sitting on a shelf that is, or on a bookcase that is probably 6 inches in front of the TV.
Okay.
So down here, I noticed the Atmos is a little bit better, but it's also a slightly smaller room. Upstairs in my living room, it wasn't a noticeable difference, but it also is not sitting right underneath. The plasma starts here, and it was about kind of, the front of it was probably sitting.
Okay. Just curious.
So we had it a little bit further out. I've read some stuff where people have said tucked right underneath, they still don't really notice it. It's going to come down to, again, what TV you're using. So if you're using, a frame or something slimmer that has, an inch profile or half an inch profile at the bottom and is tilted a touch out, you're probably not going to notice any difference. But if I can be so bold, Mark, it's a soundbar that's $1,000. I'm not expecting groundbreaking, Atmos experience. And that is one of the hard things I have with anytime I talk about Sonos or review Sonos, is it continually seems to get compared to, that $20,000 room with massive speakers and amps and a rack full of gear. When I look at this and compare it to, I think back to some of our clients that, had an aux room and they wanted a Bose, soundbar, or they wanted a Polk, or they wanted any other powered soundbar. They all usually kind of pale in comparison to the products that were on the market at the time from Sonos, whether it was Beam or Playbar. Now, I just see this being intrinsically better. It sounds fantastic. It sounds better than any, powered smart soundbar I've heard.
That's great. I mean, we don't sell any soundbar other than Sonos, so there's no reason to. It just integrates. It integrates with the TV well, and it actually integrates with the control system pretty well as a soundbar too. So it's the only one we sell. But I was just curious how, for those listening who don't know, you're supposed to mount the ARC 4 inches below your TV to maximize the Atmos performance. Challenges, then you have to have an electrician in to put a power outlet behind the ARC, because you can't run the power cord in the wall. So I was just curious, when you move it up to the TV as opposed to 4 inches below, how much does that diminish the Atmos performance.
And again, I think it will to some degree, but again, if you're mounting it on the wall, you have that bracket depth, which is not huge.
Right.
Still, a little bit of bracket depth. Tilt that TV a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a massive problem. But you'll still have the purists or the Sonos haters who will tell you it is. Again, it's a really, really good sound for $1,000. I'm happy with it. So there, and again, you can go visit AVNation.tv. You'll find my review. You'll see a video of my kid screaming. Not see the cut of him trying to take the camera out of my hand and all that fun stuff. That's B-roll that you might see it if you ask nicely. I'll send it to you. But as we're well over time, thank you both so much for joining us today. Samantha, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Cedia, where can they do that?
Yes, please connect with us. We love to hear from everybody within the education team especially. So feel free to email me, sventura@cedia.org.
Thank you so much. Mr. Feinberg, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Home Theater Advisors, where can they do that?
I'm still a little old school, so hometheateradvisors.com, Mark at hometheateradvisors.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/hometheateradvisors.
Have you heard of Twitter?
I have. I just don't use it. I find it annoying. I don't know. I don't like it. I hate having to click through. I like all the content right there. I don't want to have to click and get lost down some rabbit hole.
No comment. All right.
Yeah, I know. I'm old. Leave me alone. I'm an old crotchety man.
I didn't say it. I just thought it a lot. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to us today. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matthew Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.